Welcome, Bob. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Bob.
Good to be here.
Interesting to have a guest on from where are you from?
Canada, British Columbia, Canada. It's so nice to be able to sit and talk with you two. This is just like, oh, it means so much to me. Now I'm getting already emotional.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Rob, most of the time I do the legwork and I contact people. I go fishing to see if we can get someone on as a guest. But with you, I believe it's the other way around. I think you contacted us and you said, pretty please, can I be on your podcast? And we had absolutely no hesitation but say, sure.
I was listening to one of the podcasts and it just prompted all these emotions, all these feelings about what I've been through. And I thought, I really want other people to experience the wonder of this girl and the gift that she has to bring healing into people's lives. And I never dreamed I would experience that through this song. And I heard so many testimonies of people of how the song has affected them. And then it was my turn. So I chose the Million Miles video that I actually experienced this whole thing with when she was doing her concert. And that's where she was really stumbling with introducing the song about the pain that people have gone through. And you can see her emotion right there. She's fumbling a little bit and not quite knowing how to put it out there that this is a song to bring healing. And when she sang Gloomy Sunday on Norway's Got Talent, the camera pans to her mother off stage and she goes like this. And she is so emotionally moved by her little girl and quite possibly realizing she is now having to give this little child to the world. And this is the moment of her career beginning. And that always just moves me so deeply because it's always all about Angelina. And I am always so grateful for the people that bring her family into the conversation because without them, we have no Angelina.
Yeah, I know from conversations that you've had with Alan that Alan and I, we can have certain wishes for how an episode is going to turn out. But don't worry about it because it's always in the guest's hands what it will be. It's like the magic is us coming together and talking.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Even if we have some kind of preconceived idea of what we want.
I get anxious quite easily, and it's something that I'm dealing with from stuff with my mother when I was younger. But I feel very comfortable in your hands. I do. I trust you guys.
I heard you've produced some videos on YouTube, haven't you?
Yes, I ordered Angelina's book, and that was way back when it first came out. And it came all the way from Norway, and I finally got it. It was just this treasure. And it actually took me about 2 weeks to open it because I wanted the anticipation to last. And when I finally did open it, my dear friend videotaped me, and it was great. And the same with her coffee mug that I use every morning at home with Grandma Mary's painting and her name on one side. And so I made both these videos. I have a few other videos on my channel, but what I would really like to begin to do is reaction videos, but I don't know how to use the software. The learning curve is so steep, and I've had no one to show me, but I really want to learn to do that.
Yeah. But maybe I could help. I've helped other people.
He single-handedly made me a YouTuber. Pontus is completely responsible for me. So the background for today's video, someone was exchanging emails with me and he made the point, and it's really true. Nobody goes through life unscathed. You know, we all have wounds and scars. Some are small and some are major. We all have had knocks and bumps in our life. And different people have different ways of dealing with it. And part of what we angels experience is the healing power of what part Angelina Jordan can play in our life. And this, we think, really could and should be the basis for today's episode, Bob. So why don't you talk us through this?
Okay, so when I was 16, my mother inferred to me that she wanted to end her life. And she used to read to me books and she would tickle my back. And this is how she got me to stay there and listen. And they were mostly Christian books that she would read. And during one of these times when I was 16, she inferred that she wanted to end her life. And So I went down to my room and I cried, hoping she would come down. And I had never been held by my mother that I could remember. And there was no nurture or anything. And she did come down and she held me. And I begged her not to leave me. And she promised. She says, "For you, I won't." I wasn't a good boy. I was getting into trouble. And I was trying to make sure that Mom was going to be happy. And I inadvertently took it upon myself, my responsibility to make sure that she was going to remain here. And then when I was 18, she did take her life. And I did not cry one tear. I sat on the edge of our bathtub and I looked in the mirror and I said, "I am not going to feel this." And I said it twice, and it somehow took hold. And I felt nothing. And at 60 years old, last fall, in came Angelina. And I had no idea what was going to happen. I knew right away when I heard Angelina for the first time, there was something very profound about this girl, because she hit me emotionally so deeply. When I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, I've never been touched by music like that in my whole life. Last fall, I was working at my bench at work. I'm a cabinet maker. And I was doing some really technical work, very deeply concentrated on what I was doing. And all of a sudden, the thought came to me, "You are not responsible for your mother's death." And I stood straight up and I immediately started to cry. And I took this as God planting that into my mind. And I went into the bathroom and I sat down and I began to cry more. And my conversation with God went such as, "I agree. I believe you've spoken the truth to me. I agree. I am not responsible for her death. Now what?" And I just had a peace. And I went back to work. And the following Sunday was going to be the live stream on the Shield fan page that they had put together of a whole bunch of videos from that day that people had put together. And they did it very seamlessly. So I was able to watch this full concert. And when Angelina began to introduce Million Miles, she fumbled a little bit with her words. She had to stop and then start again. And I began to choke up. I began to get emotional. And it was because whenever Angelina gets emotional, I get emotional. I immediately get emotional.
Rob, let's stop and let's all three of us listen to that moment.
Okay.
Whoever that you lose in your life, like, one of your, I gotta start again. Whoever, you lose, like, your loved ones, I don't want any of you to think that, they left you. They're always going to be with you no matter where you are. So you're never alone.
Child, I walk the streets, they see me growing up. Know you were around me. I see me myself through all the years. It's like it's in my tears. I think what it's giving me is smiles and the memories, but now it's not here to harm me. In the light of the blue sky, I'm not alone to fly. I'll never regret what I done. We're a million miles apart, it's pulling my heart. I can empty out, I can make it stop. And this cold in my heart, like an empty bone to me numb. I can make it stop, but I know in my heart, I know that I'm never alone.
Amazing. Amazing. It's amazing.
How are you feeling, Bob?
Yeah, pretty raw. Yeah, I was not prepared for that. I've listened to that song numerous times since on that video. But our focus here is so concentrated on this issue, and listening to those words, you know, I've since learned the history of my mother and her trauma and her pain. And I'm an extreme empath, and I feel for her and what she had been through. And I believe one of her biggest pains in life was not being able to give me the love that she had in her heart, because I knew she loved me. And so when she sings about her grandpa being in her heart, they're never far away. It was like a new layer of a balm, you know, BALM, a balm upon the wound, where I just felt this peace because the numbness is all gone. So that was a very truly beautiful experience. And that girl, I know, I just, we're all speechless. I just come undone. I don't understand it. And my life here in Canada, nobody in my circle gets Angelina. Nobody. At work, they all really respect me with my belief that I have, or my passion I have. And anybody who's new at work, after a little while, says, "Oh, have you heard about Angelina?" And everybody starts laughing because they get the introduction, and then I try to catch them in a net while I play a video. And again, nobody's getting it. And I have one fellow, he's a worship leader at our church, and he thinks she's just absolutely amazing, but he hasn't been able to find that emotional connection yet. To be here with the two of you and to listen to that song, I can't really explain it. I'm just really grateful for this opportunity.
Bob, you have really just explained it. You have explained how she has fit a valuable part of your life and how she has done something for you. That is all the explanation that we need to hear, and that's all the explanation thousands of angels around the world need to hear. Because this is why we're calling this episode Healing in Real Time. Because you're talking us through the events, you're talking us through the process, and you're talking us through your emotional transition. This is what healing is.
Yes. Yes. So when I looked in the mirror at 18 and said I wasn't going to feel this, it happened. In my childhood, I had always wanted to tell my mom I loved her, and I couldn't do it. I would just be angry, at times just full of rage. I had rage since I could remember, and I've since found out that usually stems from not having those core needs met by your mother, and the fear of abandonment, all of that. And so I've been in this long process of trying to unpack all that stuff in my life and work it out. And I remember one time I brought home 13 roses, red roses from Mom, and I was going to tell her I loved her. And I got to the front door, and I just became angry, and I buried them in the garden, and she never saw them. And the morning that she passed, she had told my father and I'm going to go stay at so-and-so's home, dear friend of hers, tomorrow night. And we thought this was a really great idea because she'd been depressed. The next day at work, I got a phone call, and somebody had been trying to reach my mom and phoned that number where she had been staying. And that person said that she hadn't spoken to her in many months. And right then I knew that this was the day. Nobody else on the planet knew except me that this was the day the mom was going to leave us. And sure enough, I got home, and this is what happened. Oh, and on the way to work that morning, I tried to phone. I thought I'm going to phone her and I'm going to tell her I love her. And I got to work and I phoned and she was gone already. So never had an opportunity to tell her I loved her. She never told me. I only remember her holding me that one time. And so the decades just keep going. The decades go. 60 years old. And this event happens.
For me to hear you tell this story with these details, it sounds like it happened last month. It sounds really fresh and really recent. It does not sound like it happened 40 years ago.
And that part with the roses really got to me. That's, yeah.
Yeah, dear mom, you know.
Why don't we talk about other moments that you have experienced with Angelina where she has helped you go to the other side? Can you give us some other examples?
Yes, it was about a year and a half ago, and I'm trying to understand why I love this person so much. What is that? Why do I feel so protective of her? I defend her on the fan page. There have been people who didn't like when she changed the color of her eyes. And I found myself trying to be as nice about it as possible, but defended her. Because my belief has always been, that little girl she gave her shoes to, when you look in that book, you see the color of that little girl's eyes. They're the same color as Angelina's eyes right now. At first I thought, well, she did it so that she looked like her mom, because she loves her mom so much. But I do sincerely believe that she did it so that when she looks in the mirror, she sees that little girl. And she said in that interview, when she read out of the diary about that experience and what she wrote, that like there was a stairwell created to heaven, and she went there with this little girl. So I believe what she said then, that little girl is in her mind all the time, in her heart all the time.
Yeah. And she also said that she wants to be that little girl, even if just for 1 minute. And to me, that's almost a definition of being an empath.
Yes, isn't it ever? Yes, walk in her shoes. And then she gave her shoes. I'm contemplating all these deep feelings and convictions that I have about this little girl. And it's not just Angelina, it's her family. Because Mary is so involved in her life. All these videos on the Mozart channel are done by Mary. I asked this question, why do I love this girl so much? And it just dawned on me that I've never been married, I don't have children. And I thought I would go to my grave never having known the love for an offspring, you know? Because I felt alone most of my life as it is. I just started to weep, and it just flows. And I realized I love her as though she's my own granddaughter. That's how protective I am. I would give up my life for this girl. I would, without a thought, you know? There has been times where I find myself worrying about her and her future. But then the worry subsides because I know that her family is there to protect her. And she's got an innate humility that she submits to her family's scrutiny and protection over her. They don't meddle. Even when her mom was interviewed after Gloomy Sunday on Norway's Got Talent, she says, oh, Angelina, you know, she loves to sing. And as long as she wants to sing, we will support her. Yeah. It's just profound. So now I have that absolute fulfillment within me. I will go to my grave knowing what that feels like. And it just continues to grow because all these videos are like a grandparent's scrapbook and photo album. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at her here. Oh, look at her here. And we see the growth. We see the stretching. We see her on the couch at 1.5 with that karaoke mic that's bigger than her arm, with all her little dollies around her, trying to sing Whitney Houston. And that's the beginning. How many hundreds of times she practiced that song.
It's one thing to appreciate Angelina musically, and it's another thing to even be a better person and to have healing. But what you have introduced is another stage beyond. She has taught you to feel protective and idealistic type of love towards her. And that is another level of how she has made you a better person. That is something which is new to my ears. I have not realized this before, and I have not heard this, but you have just said it very clearly, and this is something very important for the Angelina Jordan community to understand. It's not just about her music, it's on a deeper level of how she has the possibility of making us feel, which we can just spread out throughout our whole life.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I believe that she was born with this somehow, and it's like certain things I think are impressed upon a child in the womb, and you hear of parents singing to their child in the womb, speaking to the child, reading stories to the child in the womb. I believe it all begins at conception. She was born with this gift, and I don't know when she actually became aware of the purpose of this and what her role was, what her responsibility was. Because I look at it like a calling in life to love people, a calling in this life to bring people together, to be kind. She uses that simple word, be kind to each other. She doesn't say nice. She doesn't say any big complicated word. She just says, be kind to one another. And I try. When I look back at my journey of healing, I've been filled with so much anger and resentment, and it's been taken out on other people. And I continually have to clean up my messes. When I mistreat somebody by something I say, I have to always go back and apologize and humble myself. And I get the picture of Angelina after she sings the song when she was younger. She'd always do a little curtsy. And especially in Norway's Got Talent, when she did the a cappella version, she stands there at the mic with all these other children who are just, they're undone. I think they knew the game was up. And what does she do? She just stands there and grabs just with her fingertips, the hem of her little dress, and does this slight little curtsy and says, thank you. And that hasn't changed. Now she's a bigger girl. She's 17 years old. Oh, she's like over 6 feet tall. She's a young woman. And that humility is still there. You see it in that concert. You see it throughout it. She starts to cry. And she says, oh, no, they're happy tears. And she says, thank you all for coming from so far. The humility is amazing. So I pray for her. I pray that humility will remain, that she will never, ever lose that. Because if she does, that's a scary thought,
I have a thing which I like to bring out when one of the judges is implying that she has this gift and she's a gift to mankind. And one of the other judges objects a little bit and say, but remember, you don't owe us anything. You just do what you want to do and what you love, but you don't owe us anything. You don't have to do anything to us. And I think that's so important to remember, that we can't expect something from her that she doesn't want to do. And I know she wants to sing for the world and give us everything. She's saying that in concerts as well. You inspire me to do even better, she says. She doesn't really have to do anything for us. So we have to keep that in mind.
I don't think she feels it as personal pressure on any level. I don't feel for the judge to say that. Maybe the judge was trying to dilute any sense that Angelina might feel of personal pressure. But I don't think she feels that, because it's such a profound calling for her. It's like the most natural thing in the world for her.
That's true. She loves to sing, but also if you take into account some of her lyrics are suggesting there is another side of it that's sort of not so bright. In Seventh Heaven, for instance, it's just not happy. It's not all good feelings. It's also like the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
There's something that falls heavy on her shoulders. And so there is some reflection there upon what it is to be such a inspiration to many, I think.
Yeah. Or maybe that's just what it's like to be a teenager. Even an ordinary teenager has that.
But to be aware of that, like, she has no issue whatsoever with wearing her emotions on her sleeve. And look how she takes care of us, all her angels, all her fans. She nurtures us. And you can see her care. And I was telling you, Alan, when we had the last Zoom meeting, that on Christmas Eve, she had put out a post on Instagram, a Merry Christmas post, and I had commented on there, telling her and naming all the people in her family that they had become like family, like my own. And I said, Merry Christmas. And about an hour later, Christmas Eve, because I have a very difficult time with Christmas. Very difficult. I grew up with an alcoholic family. I was just putting one foot in front of the other. So Christmas Eve, an hour later, I get a notification, and I open up my phone, and there's a response to my post. And I look at it. I look at the person who sent the response. I said, no, this can't be. And I went to my roommate, and I showed him. I says, is this Angelina? And he presses a few buttons, and he goes, yeah, that's her. And it was Angelina with a little blue circle with the white tick. And she said, you'll recognize this. Aw, that's so sweet. That's the way she would talk. And she's Merry Christmas with these hearts and hugs. And I don't remember the rest of the evening. That was Christmas Eve. This is the best Christmas I've ever had in my life. Yeah. And I believe what happened is she maybe did the post and then came back a little while later, and mine was the last post on there, and she responded. Because after a while, I saw that she had responded to numerous people. So she picked and chose. This is not normal for a musician, a famous person, a star, and her, a superstar, to reach out to her fan base like that. And so that made it even more precious to do that because, you know, she needs to keep that low profile. And it made me feel very important, right?
The great thing about this podcast today is how you have given so many thousands of angels around the world a blueprint of how you can extract so much healing and so much emotional transformation and even learn about how to feel more love in dealing with Angelina, because the inexplicable happens inside of you. And it has been great to have this demonstrated so clearly and so strongly by you, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, there's more. I watched the video in my room because it was a live stream, and there were people that I recognized. And there's one fellow from Italy, Glenn Morris, because I'm dealing with a person who gets Angelina, and I immediately extend something that I wouldn't to somebody else who doesn't, and I can't explain it. So anyways, I was chatting and I was explaining that my mother had committed suicide, and I'm feeling all this emotion throughout the whole song. I just came undone and I just wept the whole time. And I look at it as though I was able to, or God was able to unscrew the lid of the pain. I used to call it Pandora's box, right? But within Pandora's box are all manner of bad things. And this isn't that. This is my wound. And as the lid came off, it was exposed, and it was like a surgeon lancing a wound, lancing a cyst or a boil, and all the poison comes out. And I believe that's what was happening. So at the end of the podcast, I thought about my friend, another fan, Nancy Bianco, who lives on the other side of the earth and doesn't speak English, but we connected through comments. And so I messaged her and I said, I didn't see you on the live stream. Were you there? And she goes, no, I was out in the country. We didn't have internet. And so I told her what had happened. And her response was simple. She goes, you need to talk to your mother right now. I thought, gee, the cemetery is so far. 4 times in my adult life, I've gone to the cemetery. When my father and I put her ashes in the ground there, she was put in a little hole in front of her brother's plate. And my father never got a nameplate for her. Still, there's nothing there. And I went there 4 times to try to tell her that I loved her and talk to her. I couldn't do it. I was so numb, completely numb. And it was so confusing for me. So Nancy says, you need to go talk to your mother. And I says, the cemetery is so far. And she goes, oh, no cemetery needed. You talk to her right now, right here where you are. And I said, okay, all right. I've never done such a thing. You know, I'm not a person who believes in talking to the dead. But I says, okay, I will. So we ended the call. And there's Angelina frozen in the frame on YouTube video. And this is what I said. I says, I know I wasn't a good boy. But God has told me that I'm not responsible for your death. And then I said, I don't know why you did what you did. I have an idea, but I don't know. And then I was just filled with all this emotion. It just came boiling up from within me. And I began to tell her how much I missed her. And then I told her I love her. And I kept on saying it over and over and over and over. All the numbness was gone. And what I always feared would be there if I ever felt anything was rage, the same stuff I used to feel, and it terrified me. But there was nothing but peace and these wonderful memory of my mom, of her essence of who she was. I can't remember what she sounded like. I remember sort of what she looks like, yet it was her essence. And I just poured it out. I miss you so much. I love you so much. Over and over and over and over again. And it was done. It was so simple. It was so simple. And then I reached out to Nancy and I told her what happened. And she says, okay, now you wait for what's coming next. That's what she said. And that's how we left it. And so we have had numerous conversations about that since then. And I love this lady like she's my family because of the involvement that she's had in bringing this healing into my life. And if it wasn't for her, I would not have had this conversation with my mother. And I wouldn't have come through the other side of this whole thing. And first of all, God used Angelina and began using her from the day I first heard her voice. Every time I hear every song, it's like the first time. But I have to confess, there are many of the fans, angels, who listen to her every day. I don't. I can't, because I have to be in a place where I can emote. And I'll do it when I'm driving. I'll do it sometimes when I'm working where I don't have to think too hard. And I'll do it at home when I have some time. And I have to be in the right headspace to do it. I don't listen to Angelina to feel better. I listen to Angelina because I have to. I have a need to. It's like getting your insulin or getting your sustenance. And when I do listen to her, something always happens. There is no other vocal musician that I listen to. And I thought, gee, that's kind of strange. But everything else that I listen to is just noise. It's noise. It's words like other pop stars. I don't even think they really are connected what they're singing at all. It's just noise and words to me, right? When I hear Angelina, there's life. Life just flows out of her.
In addition to Million Miles, is there another favorite song that you have?
There's a video clip of Sarah backstage. And whenever I see a video with Angelina, with her in it, I somehow want to honor her. You know, I somehow want her to know what she means to me. She has created this little girl. She came from her. So there's that little video clip where she's just so moved by her little girl, who 2 years prior, 5 years old, said, hey, I want to be on the talent shows. And there she was at 7. And then always on my mind, I chose near the end where she becomes emotional and it's visceral about her dear, precious grandpa. And you almost get a sense of extension of love for this man because she loves her so much.
This song is dedicated to my grandpa. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. And maybe I didn't hold you all the lonely, lonely times. And I guess I never told you I'm so happy that you're mine. If I make you feel second best, Grandpa, I'm so sorry I was so blind. You were always on my mind. satisfied. Little things I should have said and done. I'm so sorry that you're mine. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind.
Wow.
Have we lost Paul?
Wow. No, I'm here. I'm here.
I'm not sure. Still recording, but he's not here.
Okay.
I'll stop recording now and let's reach out to him.
I'm so sensitive to serendipity and omens because the last line of that song where she breaks down, where she's singing, I never had a chance to say goodbye, is exactly why we three are meeting up again. Because we never had a chance to say goodbye. Serendipity is just wonderful, the way life overlaps with the reality.
The way technical issues can really make you point out the good things in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Just some comments about that song. In that that song really spoke to me because she said maybe I said things I or didn't say things that I should have said, and there was so much connection there.
Yeah, and so I want to thank you properly for sharing your innermost precious memories about your mother and the whole thing you've went through. And nobody should go through what you've been through. I know my father was also depressed during a lot of his life, and I know at one time he said that he wanted to commit suicide, and it hit me really hard. I have asthma, so I have hard to breathe sometimes. And they say there's a psychological component to asthma, but I've never felt that. Just this once. When he said he wanted to commit suicide, just a few moments later I got asthma from it.
Wow.
So it was really...
a physiological response.
Yes. So, I mean, that's not something anybody should hear.
I consider myself very fortunate in that here I am at 61 and I've come out the other side. And I took a dear friend out yesterday. And we were talking yesterday about this podcast and talking about life. And it is so fleeting. It is so short. And now when I meet people that I really connect with, I get their phone number now. There are connections to be had with people all over the place. If we don't take that moment and grab it, we lose it. And I grew up with no connection with people whatsoever.
Yeah, it's you wearing your heart on your sleeve has helped a lot of people's hearts around the world.
This has been a real pleasure for me to put my heart out there. I feel really vulnerable. I feel safe with you guys. I have no idea who's going to see this, but I hope a lot of people are one step closer to coming to that place where they can begin to dialogue with that. And this has been a very cathartic process because I need to continue to go to that place of pain. Stop running from it and run to it and embrace it. And because I believe it's that part of our humanity that has been missing for so long.
Yes, thank you so much for this, Bob. This was great.
Okay, excellent.